The January webinar from Vrakas, Blum Computer Consulting. Today we are going to be covering Sage Intelligence. It's a replacement for FRX among other reporting functionality. Our presenter today is Jessie Braun, the latest recruit to the Vrakas Blum Computer Consulting team. She comes to us from private industry, where she spent a number of years supporting Sage 100 and is on her way to becoming a rock star for us. With that being said, I am going to turn it over to Jessie.
Thanks, Steve. Like he said, my name is Jessie Braun. I'm a certified Sage consultant with Vrakas Blum, and I'm also certified with Sage Intelligence.
Jessie, we're going to start over.
Oh, we have to start over?
Well, your screen didn't flip. When I switched to you, it stayed on the...
Okay.
Your screen wasn't showing up. So let's start the January webinar. Today we're going to be talking about Sage Intelligence, and it's a replacement for the FRX product that everybody used for financial reporting, as well as many other things. Our guest speaker today is Jessie Braun. She is the latest consultant to join Vrakas Blum Computer Consulting. Prior to joining us, she was working in private industry, supporting Sage 100 for a number of years. She is on her way to becoming one of our rock stars, and so please welcome her as she goes through the Sage Intelligence. It's all yours, Jessie.
Great. Thanks, Steve. So my name is Jessie Braun, as Steve said, and I'm a Sage certified consultant with Vrakas Blum, as well as being certified with Sage Intelligence. And I come to Vrakas with quite a bit of experience in Sage Intelligence report design. Today, we're going to be talking about what Sage Intelligence is, how it works, how to create a basic financial and non-financial report, and talk about some of the more advanced options. Please feel free to contact us if you want more detail on Sage Intelligence after this webinar. A recording of this webinar will be posted on our website if you want to review anything we have done here today. The phone lines are muted and you are in listen-only mode. I will be taking some questions at the end. So let's get started with what is Sage Intelligence? Sage Intelligence is a tool that can be used to create custom financial report templates in Excel. It pulls your Sage data into an Excel workbook where you can use formulas and format to create a template that is to your own specifications. It uses both standard Excel functionality with formulas like sums, and also has custom formulas to pull data from your Sage database, like your GL actual amount for an account. After your report is created, you can also distribute that report via email, save it to a location, or upload it to an FTP site with the click of a button. Sage Intelligence is marketed as a replacement for the now unsupported program FRX. It uses a lot of the same functionality, but lets you design within Excel for a more familiar format. Sage Intelligence is a great tool to utilize for a number of reasons. We've heard from many customers who spend time every month creating financial reports that are formatted exactly the way their company requires. Most often, they are taking information from Sage and transferring it to Excel, either by exporting a standard report or by hand keying that data. This obviously takes a lot of time to hand key or to reformat. Sage Intelligence allows you to set up your sheet the same way you've already been doing it and not have to rekey that data every month or to reformat your sheet. You save your template and then run the report, and your updated Sage data is populated into the sheet. Most people are already comfortable with standard Excel, so Sage Intelligence is an easy tool to learn and customize. You can get as advanced with Excel functionality as you are comfortable, including up to running macros. If you use segmented GL accounts, you can use the reporting trees function to look at your different GL segments like departments or locations. You can set the reporting trees up to create totals for your segments as well. You can also consolidate data from multiple sources and companies in Sage using the connector module. The connector module allows you to see a complete combined financial statement across multiple Sage companies. It also allows you to connect to outside databases. Sage Intelligence also allows distribution of your report with the click of a button, saving you time every month in saving or emailing reports. You can email your report with a message or save it to a file location or FTP site. Sage Intelligence is a program that was developed by Sage, and its components are installed on every workstation. They must still be activated before use to verify your purchase, but the install is easy. Support and development of the software come right along with Sage. So let's talk about how Sage Intelligence works. Your data exists and is stored in Sage 100. This data is ever changing as you make entries and have transactions occurring in Sage. The report manager in Sage Intelligence saves your templates and transfers the data from your Sage 100 system out into Excel. You can also set parameters and advanced options here. In Excel, you are able to use the custom and standard formulas to create your report template and see your data. This is also where you use the Sage Intelligence tool to distribute your report. So now, let's get to the real heart of the presentation, creating a report. I'm going to exit the slideshow at this moment, and we're going to open up Sage. So we're going to start by opening the Sage Intelligence Report Manager. And you can see it's opening up here, and it opens up in a whole new screen with this R. After opening this, you can see on the left, we've got our list of reports. And then on the right, we have information about that report. And along the top is our toolbar. Let's go ahead and start by creating a new report. So I'm going to right-click and add a report. The first question that it's asking us is this a standard report or a union report? A standard report is a report that uses one data container versus a union report which uses multiple data containers. A data container is a predefined set of data that can come from one or multiple sources. For example, a customer data container would contain fields like name, credit limit, etc. So we're going to start by creating a standard report. I'm going to click OK, and we're just going to call this report Sample. This is where we select our data container. You can see we have lots of options of already created data containers. We're going to go ahead and use the customer sales data container. Click OK. And this is going to tell us what's the data that's in our data container. We can select our fields here, and these are going to show up as our columns. So I'd like to take a look at our customer number and customer name. I think I'd like the date of last activity and the date of last payment, as well as their current balance and the credit limit. So once you've selected all of your columns, we can click OK, and it's going to create our report. You can see it right here. This first tab, Properties, gives us information about the report, like I said previously, a report name and description. If we go to our Columns tab, you can see right here the columns that we just selected to include in this report. If you want to add more columns, all you have to do is click the Add button. Let's go to Filters, and we're going to add a filter to this report. I would like to select out and see anything with a date of last aging greater than or equal to, and I'm going to set the date at 1/1 of 2018 and create this filter. So now you can see that this is going to select and say only show records with a date of last aging greater than or equal to 1/1 of 2018. I'm going to go to the Parameters tab next, and we're going to create a runtime parameter. So you'll notice here that we've got all of the fields that are included in the data container. It doesn't only select the columns that are available. So I'm going to select our salesperson. We're going to have a parameter for that. So I'm going to select salesperson equal to, And here allows you to select an optional default for the parameter. I like to leave this blank because it really prompts you, it really makes you think about what you want to look at when you run the report. So we're going to leave that blank. And then when we run the report, it will prompt us to tell it what salesperson we want to see this report for. Next, I'm going to go to sort fields and we're going to add a sort. So I'm going to sort this report by customer name. Once we've made all of our selections here, we're going to highlight the report again and click Run. It takes just a moment for the report to run, but we do have to choose our salesperson first. So we're going to choose salesperson 0300 and go ahead and click OK. And then it's going to create our report. And here we go. We've got all the information that we asked for in this report. You can see we've got the credit limit, current balance, the customer name and number, and the date of last activity. Also the date of last payment, but I don't have any information in here because it's just a test company. So this type of data, you can see it's just basic data in a spreadsheet. But a great way to utilize more features of Excel are to create pivot tables or visual representations like charts and graphs using this Excel data. All of the extra features are done in Excel, and then you save the template so that you can run the report back out anytime with new data. So now that we've created a standard report, let's get into creating a financial report using the Report Designer task pane. So let's go back to our Report Manager, and we're creating a financial report, so I'm going to start this one a little bit differently than the previous one. We're going to go to our Financials tab, and I'm going to copy this Financial Report Designer. And then I'm going to paste it right into my custom folder. And you can see it's come up with copy of Financial Report Designer. That's not a very descriptive name, so I'm going to change the name and call it Sample ABX. And I'm just right-clicking to get to the copy and right-clicking to get to the rename. It's requesting, it's saying, do you want to overwrite this with the new name? I'm going to say yes. And you can see it's changed the name here, as well as changing the name in my report template and my report name in the properties of the report. So I'm going to begin to run this report because it's going to take a little bit longer than the previous one. And the reason for that is it's a union report. So this has multiple data containers attached, and you can see those data containers listed right here. We've got things like accounts, account types, main accounts. So it takes a little bit more time to run that information out. Should be just about finished here. All right. So we've got our report open, and this Report Designer comes up immediately with this home page. The home page can be kind of nice. It's got some FAQs and links to how-to videos as well. Feel free to take a look around here and get yourself comfortable with this. Also, you've got the Instructions tab, which gives you some basic instructions for getting started with your Report Designer. But the big thing that we want to talk about right here is our Financial Report Designer task pane. So this is a really huge tool with Sage Intelligence, and you can see we've got a lot of tabs. So let's go through those different tabs. First, we have Layouts. Layouts gives us access to standard layouts within Sage Intelligence. So with the click of a button, I can create a balance sheet or an income statement. These are the standard Sage templates. So we'll click on one of those in a little bit, and I'll show you what those look like. The next tab on the list is Lists. This is going to give you access to Sage lists of things. So main accounts can be a really useful one because you may want to start writing a custom report and use all of the main accounts that you have in your system as a starting point. Under Formulas, we're going to see all of the custom formulas that come along with Sage Intelligence. Things like GL actual and actual year to date, as well as your budgets, are going to be very important in writing your financial reports. Under trees, we find the reporting trees that you're going to be using with your GL segments. We're going to get into this quite a bit later, and so I'm going to kind of leave this one alone for now. We'll come back to it. Under tools, you'll find a nice tool to show any missing accounts. If you have a report that you've created a while ago, and maybe you've added a general ledger account in the meantime, you can use this tool to help you identify where you have missing information in your reports. So let's go back to our layouts, and I'm going to click on Balance Sheet to create a balance sheet. So it was just a single click, and it's going to generate this layout for us. All right, so it's all finished. And the first thing that you're going to notice is that we don't have any information here. And that's because up in the left, we've got our parameters for this report. And maybe one of these parameters doesn't have data in there. So if I change this fiscal year to 2020, you can see it now populates with data. So the year 2019 was missing information that it needed. All of your formulas are going to be based off of these parameters here. Let's take a look at the detail that's behind this report. So you can see now we've got a lot of different accounts. We've got a lot of different dollar amounts and data that's coming through for this. And this is even maybe too detailed for what we really want to look at. So let's go ahead and start creating a report of our own. So I'm going to click here to open a new sheet. And the first thing that I'm going to do is go over to my List tab, and we're going to use our main accounts list to pull that into our system. So I'm dragging and dropping, and I'm leaving a little space up at the top for later. So you can see, after you drag and drop this in, we've got access to all of the main accounts that are included with this specific company. I don't really need these last three columns, so I'm going to delete those. And then after we've kind of got this beginning to get set up, we're going to set our parameters. So I'm going to type in company, because that's one of our parameters, year, and I'm going to use the year 2020, period, and I'm going to use period 1. And I'm also going to put in here reporting tree, and we're going to use that a little bit later. So we've got our parameters set at the top, and now it's time to bring in some formulas. So I'm going to select my formulas, and I want to pull in my GL actual. So I can drop in my GL actual, and you'll notice here, once we bring that in, we don't have any data in there, and that's because we haven't told the formula where to look for these parameters. So we're going to set that by highlighting our first cell and then clicking the FX to insert into the function. So we need to tell it where to look for different fields. The GL link is going to be our main GL account over here. So I'm going to reference this A10 cell. For the year, I'm going to reference the B2 year, and I'm also going to anchor this using the dollar signs so that when we copy the formula down through the rest of the report, it doesn't try to go to B3, B4, etc. We're going to now do our period, and we're also going to anchor that as well as our company. And for a little bit later, I'm going to put in our reporting tree. So now, when I drag this formula down, you can see we actually get some data in here, which that's great. I'm going to copy this formula all the way down here, and you can see we've got data throughout the report. So I've written in our actual, and I think I'd like to put in our actual year-to-date formula as well. So I'm just going to drag and drop the actual year-to-date, and then click the FX button to define the parameters. We're going to set our GL link. We're going to set our year and make sure to anchor it, our period, our company, and again, our reporting tree. So now we can see we've got data in here as well. You'll notice that the totals for actual and actual year-to-date are actually matching right now, and that's because we've chosen to use period 1. If I change this to period 5, for example, you'll see that the total now is, they're different. So it does, the actual year-to-date does round up, but you need to use a period other than 1 to begin. So because we're using Excel, we can use some of the formatting functionality that comes right along with Excel. I'm going to go ahead and set these for accounting because that looks a little bit prettier that way. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of my assets category, and I'm going to insert some rows there. And we're going to do a subtotal of our assets. And then maybe once we get the subtotal, I'm going to make those bold. And I'm also going to put a top border on them. So that looks, it's starting to look kind of nice. Down here in the liabilities, you'll notice that all of these figures come through as negative. And this is because of the way Sage handles credits and debits. So in your financial sheet, you might not want to see all of your liabilities as negative numbers. So we can fix that by putting a negative symbol in front of the GL actual. And you can see that just reversed the sign and made that change. So I'm going to drag this all the way down through the rest of my liabilities. And I'm going to also do that for my actual year-to-date. And then I think I'd like to insert some space here under the liabilities. We'll do a subtotal for that as well. And then I am going to make that bold and give it a top border. And then I think I'd like to do a formula that takes my assets minus my liabilities. And this is all just standard Excel functionality, so most people are very, very comfortable with this. One other tool that you can use within Sage Intelligence is the drill down capability. So if I highlight a cell and right click, I can go to drill down. This is going to open a new sheet that tells me exactly where each of the figures are coming from. So you can see it gives me this amount in fiscal period 1, this amount in fiscal period 2, and so on. This can be really helpful if you are trying to figure out why a report doesn't balance or why you have a record that just isn't quite hitting right. So let's go back to sheet 2, and I think the last thing I'd like to do is put a title on this. So we're going to give it a title of Financial Report. And then I'm going to use kind of a fun formula that I have that allows us to turn our date parameters into text. So I have this one already. I do need to define what's the month. So we're going to select cell B3. And what's the year? And again, what's the month? So once I'm finished selecting that, it's going to now say, this is my financial report, with an N, financial report, for the 5 months ending May 31st, 2020. Pretty cool. I'm going to make this bold, and I'm also going to center it as well. And I'm going to hide this category for assets, because we really don't need to see that in our printed report. Now that we've got a report kind of looking the way we want to send it, we can, use Excel the same way you would normally. You can select and create a print area. You can print from a selection, but we can also use our BI tools up here to distribute the report via email or save to a file location or FTP. So let's take a look at that. So to start, we're going to take a look at our distribution settings. This is where, if you're going to use email, you are going to set up your email. You can either use your Outlook profile or set up an SMTP server. That is only a one-time thing to set up. Once you've got that ready, we can go to Manage Instructions and we can decide how we want to send this report. So I've got one started here with New. I'm going to click Edit. And you can see we've got tabs for Email, File Publish, and FTP. I'm going to select to enable the email on this, and you can see I've already got one started. So I'm going to send this to Joe Genders. I could CC or BCC anybody that I wanted to on this. You can give it a subject, and then you can also create some text that goes in the body of the email. One thing I want to point out about this is that you can actually reference cells within Sage Intelligence. So for this text, I've got it saying, this is a financial report for the period with cell value sheet 2, B3. So sheet 2, B3 is our period. And then this is also referencing for the year in B2. So it's saying, this is a financial report for period 5, year 2020. You need to give this file that you're sending a name and choose the format that it's going to be sent in, whether that's through Excel or through PDF. And then the final options that you have here, this is a very important one that I'd like to point out, converting each worksheet to static values. With Sage Intelligence, those custom formulas that you have for GL Actual will send with the report unless you select to convert the worksheet to static values. That means that if you are sending this report to anybody who doesn't have Sage Intelligence Report Manager or Report Viewer, they will not be able to see the values in the report. So selecting to convert each worksheet to static values will change the cells where you have custom formulas into values. So I don't actually want to send this to Joe. I don't think he really wants to see this. So I'm going to unselect our Enable Email, and then I'm going to go over to my File Publish. So File Publish just is telling you this is a location that I'm going to save this report. I've chosen a folder on my desktop. I've given it a file name, Demo, Sage Intelligence, and I've said make it a workbook and convert it to static values. So let's click OK here, and then we can go to Select Instructions. So once you've created the instructions, you need to tell it which sheets to do what with. So under Select, we've got our instructions we just created, New, and we're going to say to send the balance sheet and sheet 2. We don't really need to send this drill down balance or our home or instructions. So we're going to select those two. And then when I click Send Now, it's going to send this report out, and we can take a look at it on my desktop. So here it is. You can see it comes right up with this balance sheet. And if we go over to sheet 2, this is the custom one that we just created. Just to show you here that this is now a value and no longer a formula. Same thing with here. So we've made a lot of changes to this report, and we need to make sure that we save those changes so next time we come in, we can use the same template. Normally, people would go to File, Save As, and save their Excel worksheet. With Sage Intelligence, you need to go back to the Report Manager to save the template. So I'm going to highlight the report. We'll go back to our properties here, highlight the report, and you can see we've got something in the toolbar here, Save Excel Template. We'll click to save. It's very important to make sure you select the correct worksheet or workbook. If you don't, you're going to overwrite your template with whatever's in book 1. So we want to make sure we select Sample ABX. We'll click OK, saying this is the template. Yep. And it's asking, are you sure you want to overwrite this? We're going to say yes. And we give it just a minute. You can see it's saving down here. And it's successfully linked and saved that report. So we've got our report started and our report saved. If you're converting reports from FRX, there are some conversion tools that you can use to bring your formatting over from the existing FRX reports. If you contact us, we can assist you with that. So now, let's take a look at that reporting tree that we talked about. I'm going to run this report back out, and we're going to get into the reporting trees. So if you use segmented GL accounting and would like to be able to look at your segments on a report, the reporting trees are going to be really useful for you. And we're just waiting for this to run out. Remember, it's got all of those tabs over here, all of those data containers. So it takes just a moment. All right. So let's go on over to our Trees tab. And sorry, I'm having a bit of issue getting that open. So I'm going to create a new layout so that I can get over to the trees. There we go. All right. So let's go back to sheet 2 here, and let's take a look at our trees. If we click the Manage button, this is going to let us take a look at the setup of the reporting trees. So the one that I'd like to look at here is the ABX cities. Let's click at it. You can see up top here, this is all of our rules for the reporting trees. So the question marks are wildcards, meaning it can be any character. What this rule is saying is that in the second segment, the characters 01, those correspond to the city Irvine, and 02 corresponds to Atlanta, and so on. You can see down on the bottom, it tells me exactly which accounts are available, which accounts qualify under these rules, and we've got quite a few accounts, so it's nice to have that reporting tree on hand. So we've got Irvine, Atlanta, New York, and Houston. At the top, you'll notice we have this all cities, and it doesn't have any rule attached to it. So on the left, we've got our parent-child relationship. All cities is set up as a parent of all of the different cities. If we wanted to move that around, let's say for some reason Houston wasn't included in the all cities, we would just drag and drop it, and now you can see Houston is equal to the all cities right here. But we do really want Houston in our all cities, so we're going to drop it back in there. So we've taken a look at the way that reporting trees are set up. Let's go ahead and see how it looks in our report. So I'm going to select the ABX cities, and we can expand this to see all of the different options that are available to us. I'm going to first pull in Irvine, and again, I'm just dragging and dropping the reporting tree right in. And you can see when we did that, the accounts receivable amount changed. I'm going to do this for Atlanta, and you can see another change. New York doesn't have a lot going on, and then Houston. And we can also put in all cities, and it will give us that same original total because it's adding up all 4 of those different segments together. So it's a bit cumbersome to drag and drop these all the way from over here. Maybe we want to make a list and have Excel validate against that list to give us a drop-down menu to select from. So to start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag each of these into a list in column I. Okay, so we've got our list created, and then I'm going to highlight the cell that we want to create our drop-down in. Go to Data, and then Data Validation. We're going to select to allow a list, and then it wants us to tell it where the source is for that list. So I'm going to give it the list right here, and we're going to click OK. And you can see now we've got a little drop-down menu here where we can select and change our reporting tree. So that is pretty cool. Another thing that we might want to do to clean up this report is we've got a lot of fields here that have zero amounts for both our actual and our actual year to date. It's making the report a little bit messy. So let's look at a way that we can fix that. First, I'm going to go and create a summary in column G for our actual and our actual year to date. I'm going to bring this all the way down through here. For any fields or for any rows that we have formatting in, we don't want it to hide. We just need to put a character in there that's not 0. I like to use an X. And we'll do that down here so we don't lose our spacing. And a couple more. All right. So we've got this ready for us. We're going to go back into our report manager to create the hiding of 0 rows. So first things first, we've made some more changes. So let's go ahead and save our Excel template. So I'm going to save this. And we're saving down here. It should be almost done. There we go. All right. And then I want to highlight the report again and go to Show Advanced. You can see there's a lot of different options under Show Advanced, but we're going to focus on Run Add-ins for the moment. So I'm going to select the library Alchemex. Alchemex was the original maker of Sage Intelligence, so you might see that name pop up. We're going to select the general Excel extensions and then this zeroing. Zeroing does give a description. All of these do, so feel free to look through and see if anything applies to you that you would like to see. We need to tell it where to look for the 0 value. So first, this was on sheet 2. The column was G. The value we wanted to look for is 0, and we want an exact match. Let's apply those changes, and we'll click OK. And then we're going to run this report back out. And again, this is just going to take an extra moment because not only does it have all of the union sub-reports, it now has this add-in that it's going to run at the end. All right, all finished. So let's go back over. And you can see now we have a much more succinct looking report. It's hidden all the rows that have 0, and that's pretty nice looking. So now that you've seen some examples of how Sage Intelligence works, I'm going to come back to our PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to talk about what you need, all the components needed to make the program work. Oops, hang on one second. All right. So Sage Intelligence has several modules that are purchased separately based on your needs. The Report Manager is where you open and save your report templates. We saw that quite a bit today. Report Manager licenses are purchased per user, and they're exclusive to the computer they are installed on. This is unlike your Sage user licenses. With Sage user licenses, you can log in as many people anywhere as you'd like, as long as you don't exceed your user limit. With Sage Intelligence, it's installed on your workstation and is exclusive to your workstation. The Report Viewer allows users to run and view reports only, with no ability to make changes to the design. The Report Viewer licenses are less expensive than the Report Manager and are very useful for people who will run but not change reports. Report Viewer licenses are also purchased per user. The Report Designer license is an overall license that gives you access to that designer task pane and to the DI tools, which is your distribution. This is really required if you want to do any custom report design. It is also included with Sage 100C currently. The connector is also an overall license, and it's used when you want to connect multiple companies or create new data containers. So if you use more than one Sage company and want to create a consolidated financial report, you would need the connector. What kind of reports should you create with Sage Intelligence? Many features are designed specifically for financial reporting, but it can be used for other modules as well, which you saw with the custom report that we created. It is a great tool for presenting information in its final format, like a financial report, or to see graphs and charts. You want to think about the time it takes to fully create a report template and how often you're going to be running this report. If it's a frequently run report, Sage Intelligence could be a good tool for you. Also, think about how comfortable you are using Excel and if the features it offers will help you in your report creation. If you're interested in learning more about Sage Intelligence and how to get it for your system, go ahead and contact us. We can talk about your needs. And we have these resources here as well. These are just a few of the things that might help you in your way to creating Sage Intelligence reports. The Sage Intelligence community is a very nice message board system where you've got a lot of experts just weighing in on their thoughts to your specific problems. Really great community. The free report templates listed here gives you access to a lot of free report templates that you can use in your report creation. Pretty nice tool and pretty great that they have access to so many of those. Sage University has some great classes on Sage Intelligence, so you can check them out as well. And as always, you can contact Vrakas Blum for any further help or questions. So that is the end of my demonstration, and we're on to questions. And I'm going to turn it back over to Steve for that.
Thank you, Jesse, for the recap and covering the Sage Intelligence. We'll be opening it up to questions at this point in time. Please either indicate through the question field at the bottom of your screen, or I will be opening it up for the phone. Thank you very much.